So I'm sure if you've been in church for a while, you've heard people talk about shepherds before. And I'm sure that you've learned that historically, in the time of Jesus, shepherds would have been experienced as somewhat unreliable people. They're kind of shifty, pretty dirty, they're alone a lot of the time, who knows what's going on, right? It's not a very desirable job. And because it's not a very desirable job, and we're within a relative caste system at this time in this place, this would have been a job for people that were otherwise not as welcome in the social context. So the fact that Luke has this revelation come to the shepherds instead of, say, to the king or the royalty isn't of itself really important. It's significant. Now, we all can understand that Luke's gospel is really the gospel to the disinherited. It's the gospel that lifts up women the most. It's the gospel that lifts up the outsider the most. The gospel that lifts up Gentiles the most. The gospel that lifts up the poor the most. And part of the message that Luke is trying to give to us is that this person, this experience of Christ, this transformational encounter that he's trying to share with us is an encounter of liberation and freedom. And that runs throughout all of the Gospel of Luke. And it certainly shows up here in the beginning. But if you were a shepherd and the whole of the heavenly host opens up above you and starts singing and telling you that you, in particular, need to go and see this amazing thing, you might say something to the effect of, "Why are you telling me? Because this does not seem like the kind of thing that gets revealed to me on a regular basis. My neighbors don't even talk to me. Why is God talking to me through an angel?" Well, they happen to be on the outskirts of Bethlehem. And Bethlehem is an important city in the prophets. This is from the book of Micah, chapter 5, verse 2. "But you, O Bethlehem of Ephrath, who are one of the little clans of Judah, from you shall come forth for me one who is to rule in Israel, whose origin is from old, from ancient days. Therefore he shall give them up unto the time when she who is in labor has brought forth. Then the rest of his kindred shall return to the people of Israel. And he shall stand and feed his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God. And they shall live secure, for now he shall be great to the ends of the earth, and he shall be the one of peace." So the people of Israel have been looking forward to and waiting for a savior for an exceptionally long time. They've been through exile and return. They've been through multiple conquests, and now they are dominated by the Romans, and they are hungry and waiting for liberation, for a new king that will rise up and give them strength and power. And here they are, these shepherds on the outskirts of Bethlehem, and somehow, miraculously, by powers outside of their control, this Holy Family has been forced to travel from Nazareth here, having no place to stay, having to stay in the stable because the guest room in whatever relative house they found was already occupied, probably because everybody was moving around for the census. And the unique piece about this is that when Micah talks about this new king, he refers to this new king like a shepherd. This new king will be like a shepherd for my people. And here you are, shepherds on the outskirts of Bethlehem, and this amazing thing is happening just right down the road. And I'm sure they're like, but why are you telling me, a shepherd who has no power, no audience, no one's clamoring to hear what I have to say and what I think and what my experience is? My life is relatively boring and monotonous. Who's going to care if I've seen the Christ? Who's going to care that the angels spoke? Who's even going to believe me? Well, this is where we go back just a little bit in Micah. Because it's clear from the scriptures from Israel that there's something really significant about a shepherd. This is from Micah chapter 2, verse 12. I will surely gather all of you, O Jacob. I will gather the survivors of Israel. I will set them together like sheep in a fold, like a flock in its pasture. It will resound with people. The one who breaks out will go out before them. They will break through and pass the gate, going out by it. Their king will pass on before them, the Lord at their head. I think part of what the angels are trying to do is trying to remind these shepherds, hey, you've got something significant. You've got an insight. You've got an understanding about reality that matters. Isn't that a message that we all need to hear when we think that our lives are mundane and boring, when we think we shouldn't tell people about our problems, about our struggles, about our difficulties, because who am I and who cares? Why does it matter? I'm not famous. I'm not interesting. Well, God is speaking to these shepherds to remind them, you have a particular view of reality that I need. Now, when you go to Ezekiel chapter 34, there's a long diatribe about the problem of false shepherds. I'll just lift up a little bit out of that. You eat the fat, you clothe yourselves with the wool, you slaughter the fatted calves, but you do not feed the sheep. You have not strengthened the weak. You have not healed the sick. You have not bound up the injured. You have not brought back the strays. You have not sought the lost, but with force and harshness you have ruled them. So they were scattered because there was no shepherd, and scattered and became food for the wild animals. My sheep were scattered and wander over all the mountains on every high hill. My sheep were scattered over the face of the earth, with no one to search or seek for them. The prophet Ezekiel calls upon the image of a poor shepherd as a conviction against the leaders of Israel and Judah at the time, saying, actually, this way that you're behaving has real consequences, and we're going to see the fall of Israel because you have not cared for the people. You have cared for yourselves. He goes on to say this. I will set up over them one shepherd, my servant David, and he shall feed them. He shall feed them and be their shepherd, and I, the Lord, will be their God, and my servant David shall be prince among them. I, the Lord, have spoken. I will make with them a covenant of peace and banish wild animals from the land, so they may live in the wild and sleep in the woods securely. I will make them and the region around my hill a blessing, and I will send down the showers in their season. There shall be showers of blessing. The trees of the field shall yield their fruit, and the earth shall yield its increase. They shall be secure on the soil, and they shall know that I am the Lord when I break the bars of their yoke and save them from the hands of those who enslaved them. They shall no more be plunder for the nations, nor shall the animals of the land devour them. They shall live in safety, and no one shall make them afraid. Now, those might just seem like lofty promises, but to a shepherd knows what that means in their body. A shepherd knows what it means to defend their flock from wolves, from thieves, from storm, from flash floods. A shepherd knows what it means to defend the sheep in a real and visceral way. Not in an ideological and removed way, not in some kind of abstract way. A shepherd knows the needs of the sheep under his care intimately, and he knows them individually. He knows that this one is not that one. This one has a bit of a limp. He knows that this one is always going to go out first and always going to need to be recalled, and this one is never going to leave the side of its mother. Right? A shepherd knows intimately the flock under his care. So why does this matter? Why would God be speaking to a shepherd through the angels about the birth of Jesus? Because there's something really unique about the position of a shepherd. See, a shepherd in this time probably didn't own any of these sheep. That oftentimes, if you were in a small community where everybody had just a couple of sheep, One person would be put in charge of caring for the aggregated sheep of that community, take them out to wander the highlands and eat, and then bring them back. Now, if you was a wealthier person who might own a whole herd, then this person would be a hired hand who would come and care for these sheep. And this is thankless work. How many of you know about thankless work? How many of you know about heavy and difficult burdens that you have to bear that no one sees? How many of you know about scooping out maggots from infected fly strike holes? Maybe you know about it personally, but allegorically you may know about it, right? That hard work you have to do, that labor you have to take, that patience you have to have that no one's ever going to see, that's never going to get celebrated, that you're never going to be able to tell the story of because you're not going to be able to tell it in a way that's difficult and painful and gross enough as it was when you had to go through it. And who's going to listen anyway? Who really wants to know the gory details? I mean, just think about all the things that you've had to go through, that these shepherds have to go through on a regular basis, that's never going to get celebrated, that's never going to get seen. Think about all the ways that God has to love everybody, even when they're kind of terrible, even when they're kind of mean, even when they're really stuck, even when they're not trying to change or grow. Think about the patience. Think about the commitment. These shepherds know something about the heart of God because they have to go and they have to care when they're not going to get any of the praise. And in fact, they have to go and do it alone. Most of the labor of the shepherd happens out in the field alone, but they do it on behalf of their community. They wouldn't be doing it, they wouldn't be so invested in these sheep if they didn't love the people or care for the people or maybe care for the people they're going to care for with the money that they make, right? There's a love ethic that's entwined in all of that labor, all of that work somewhere. There's some connection there of care. But it's separate, it's isolated, it's alone. How many of you know about caring and loving and laboring invisibly and alone, where you're not going to get to tell the story? It's not going to matter to anybody, but it's going to matter to God. There's a redemption here in this message being given first to the shepherds because they know what it is. They know what long-suffering is. They know what commitment is. They know what that deep and abiding love is. And who better to be a herald for the coming of the Messiah, who's going to have to do the same thing, who's not going to come on a chariot, who's not going to come with an army, who's not going to overthrow the world, but is going to undermine the logic of violence and domination and power over with this abiding love. Maybe the angel gets this message across. Maybe the shepherd understands this and that's why they go. I don't know. But at some point, the shepherd says, I will go. And when the shepherd leaves, the shepherds say, I will make known